Today I'm going to be talking about Destiny. I get a lot of people that used to pop into my stream on a regular basis asking, hey, why don't you talk to Destiny anymore? Or saying, Destiny scared you away, and so on and so forth. All sorts of nonsense. I come from the fighting game community. Very, very rambunctious group of people. From 18 years old until the time that I retired in 2014, I was in the fighting game community. That was well over 10 years. I don't think anyone could ever scare me away from anything. I've always been a pretty adaptive person. To the contrary, I think I was one of the few people who was willing to stand up to Destiny, and I think it actually bothered him quite a bit. Destiny has a whole goal. His whole purpose is to be the smartest person on Twitch, and he does a lot of tactics in order to become that. I thought so for a while. I got by it. Because he is rhetorically pretty accurate most of the time when he wants to be good faith. He has a decent vocabulary, and he does research at surface level such that he can beat almost anybody who does surface level research as well. The problem is, because of the fact that he has the ability to speak really fast and to speak around people, typically he's really good at repurposing and rephrasing conversations into his areas of comfort so that he doesn't actually have to debate you. Look at someone like Steven Crowder or Ben Shapiro or people like that. When they would do debates, rather than actually engage with the thing that you're talking about, they tend to move towards a talking point that they're comfortable with. And if you bring up something that they're not prepared for or that they don't want to discuss, they just say, oh, we'll get to that, but first, and then they'll go on into their talking point and you'll never get to that. I'm one who's pretty well aware of that. So when I was debating Destiny for the first time, I was debating him as a fan. So I was being particularly charitable to Destiny. So our first serious interaction, I would say, once I got very much more into the debate sphere, we were talking about a bunch of things, and I started noticing how bad faith Destiny was being in hindsight. Throughout that debate, he would do things like randomly play the piano.
Then we got to just not use the word murder, even though by definition it would be murder. Now that I'm granting you, listen, we're going to try our best, even though it has limited utility, to only focus on morality. I'm going to give that to you. Sure, let's do that. Then in that case, yeah, I won't use the word murder. But originally, my point was that morality I think morality and legality are somewhat symbiotic. I think obviously legality is informed by morality. But if we want to just go ahead and try our best to abstract this as far away from the law as possible, I'm willing to do that. And in that hypothetical, then we shouldn't use the word murder.
While I was talking to him, and even though I was conceding his point, he's playing the piano and then immediately says, hey, so yeah, we want to do it this way. It's like, I already agreed to that.
Is it okay for me then, if we're talking about whether or not you can or cannot kill somebody, that I want to use the word kill instead of murder?
Sure, okay? I just said that. Said that, yes. That's what we should do if we're going to make sure that we're abstracting it to only morality, even though it has limited utility.
You don't think there's any utility?
No, I said limited. Yes, there's plenty of utility.
But don't you think it's...
But because he was playing the piano, he wasn't listening. Then he began taking apart an argument that I was making. We were talking about the riots that were caused by the killing of George Floyd.
All right, here's a perfect example of it. The day that George Floyd died in Minneapolis, people gathered together to peacefully protest, and they started marching towards the police station. Mm-hmm. While peacefully protesting, which is their constitutional right, police began tear gassing and injuring them and shooting them with rubber bullets. After they got shot by rubber bullets and tear gassed and beaten with batons, people began running to the nearby Target to try to get milk for their eyes, because that seems to be pretty effective against tear gas. The Target said, we will not sell any milk to you. Target had a Back the Blue. They had a relationship. I used to have a picture of it, but they had an ongoing relationship where they were doing fundraisers for the police, and the police in return were a lot more closely related with their loss prevention and so on and so forth. So in that case, would you say that violence against that Target is justified?
For the purposes of stealing milk, maybe.
And there were videos that were circulating at the time. In the video, one of the people said, hey, why are you guys going so ham on this Target? And they said they wouldn't sell us milk. This was somebody, while you saw people running in and out of the store, and he was coming out and someone had a film and they asked him, and that's what he said. So I bring that point up to Destiny, and he's just like, no, where's that video? Now, I had saved a whole bunch of video, and that was one of them. But what I learned later on is that for Facebook, a lot of those videos they took down. And once they take it down, take down a video, if you don't have it downloaded to your computer, it's gone. So then the link expires. And so at this point, I don't have the evidence on hand, but it's something that I saw with my own eyeballs. Now, we're talking about that whole incident, and Destiny began arguing.
If the police do something bad to people, and then people retreat from the police, and there's a building that's owned by a business that refuses to serve those harmed protesters, those protesters, as a response, have free reign to trash, destroy, and loot that building.
It's the fact that we already have a bad history. It's the fact that I expect you to sell because that's what you are as a store. And since you already have this history, it feels like you're taking part in what we feel is unjust treatment of our peaceful protest. And so as a result of that, like, you bear some of the responsibility of that. He's like, so any neighbor that does it? And it's like, no, not any neighbor that doesn't give me milk. It wouldn't be like that because my neighbor doesn't have an expectation to provide this good. So, okay, so you're just saying anytime anyone doesn't help, and he would just always try to break down each individual part. And originally I felt like, man, he's like being dishonest. And I realized, no, he's probably missing the logic of just combining, like, that it's all of these three things together.
I trailed around while
So you're saying that if people feel violated because the store doesn't sell you milk, so you're saying that if anybody has a long-standing relationship with the police, and the way that you prove this is by way of a fundraiser, that they should be able to be attacked if the police acts in an immoral manner? Do you think every single business that had Back the Blue hung up somewhere in their store, do you think that all of those businesses could have been right?
So you're looking at these things in isolation, Destiny. It's not.
No,
these two are, no.
You stop. You are looking at things in isolation because your thought process is incoherent and inconsistent.
You can't see that these things can have a compound effect? Is this really that hard to understand?
A great analogy for that would be like if I said, in order to get pregnant, someone needs to be ovulating, need to have unprotected sex, ejaculate into the person, and that's going to create the conception process. And someone says, so every time you ejaculate, you create a baby? It's like, no. You're saying anytime a woman ovulates, she's just going to be pregnant? No. And so if you break down any one of those individual elements, of course, then the answer is going to be no. You need to look at them as a group. And I said that several times. Like, no. We're not talking about any of these things individually. And he couldn't grasp it. Probably just lack of intelligence or just bad faith. At the time, I wasn't sure if he was just not capable. And later on, I DM'd him and I told him, like, hey man, like, this is the way this argument went. And I wrote it out in the form of a mathematical thing where it's like, hey, no, we're saying A plus B plus C. You can't just say A or just B or just C. It's A plus C. The quantity A plus B plus C equals D. And he was just like, oh, I get it. So it's like, yeah, whatever. So I thought, okay, maybe it was just a misunderstanding. And at this point in time, I really did look up to Destiny quite a bit. And so I kind of looked at him, and I think I was being particularly charitable to him. And the entire time he was just raising his voice, acting stupid, acting like a fool, like just going ridiculous for no freaking reason.
So you're saying, even though Target has...
Wait, hold on. No, wait. So you're saying... So I'm going to be condescending, and then I'm going to ask you another question.
Go ahead, ask him. Be condescending. No, this was something that was... This was a pervasive belief, bro.
So your argument is that if... Wait. You said...
Now it's like... Wait, hold on.
No. It becomes a problem of proportional response. That's what I was Let's say that I go to a store and
I said the word quantity. I meant degree. Jesus Christ, bro. Just let me finish the damn sentence.
I would be talking to him calmly. He'd interrupt me more. He would say, oh, you're talking more than I did, even though he had talked more than I did. And it was just really, really an awful conversation. And I walked away from the conversation pissed. I walked away from the conversation upset and feeling like, yo, I thought this guy was so much better than that. Here he was, whatever. He started asking me questions that I felt like were intentional clip chimp questions. He would do things like, for example, we were talking about consent stuff, and he asked me,
for instance, if I live in a country, and I'm curious, we'll see if you agree with this, using your same example. I live in a country where the age of consent is 18. Let's say that I also happen to believe that about 18 is maybe where people should start fucking adults. Mm-hmm. Sure. Let's say that I go to a country where the law of consent, the age of consent is 2. What? Does that mean that all of a sudden it's moral for me to have sex with 2-year-olds?
I guess it gets really complicated, right? Because ultimately, no.
Wait,
okay.
It's not complicated. It's very simple.
Sure. Do you want me to respond here or no? Do you want me to respond here or no?
Oh, okay. I don't.
Okay,
think
I'm gonna try.
A good response. Okay, good luck.
Give me a chance, right?
And of course, that became one of the biggest clips on my channel, which of course, if taken out of context, sound pretty awful. And it was like, I know you know better. I know you know what the point that I was making, and I know you know better than to interrupt me in the middle of making such that people are going to start, reacting in a terrible way.
Our moral understanding a lot of times are informed culturally, right? Like there's cultural relativity in morality. If I've been informed and I know, like culturally, right? Like that I'm in a society where like where they're marrying like super duper young women, or they're doing arranged marriages and things like that. I wouldn't call the people who are raised in it and that's all they know and understand, I wouldn't call those individuals immoral. If a person from the United States went to a place where they were like allowed to marry 2-year-olds and then started having a relationship with that 2-year-old, I would call that person immoral.
From that interaction, I started to develop a different idea of who Destiny was, but still not entirely sure. And so I gave him a few more chances. And during these debates, again, I'm still being particularly charitable to Destiny. We ended up having a run-in on a panel. And on that panel, I started seeing, okay, so this guy is as bad faith as you can be. I have a buddy named Jeff. Jeff used to watch a lot of Destiny's content until he felt like he outgrew it, I guess. And he was explaining to me that Destiny had an MO that was to say something as provocative as possible, so then people get really upset at what he said.
Okay, hold on, wait. Firstly, I'm so curious. Can you tell me which states are trying to decriminalize fucking meth?
I think in Oregon, was one of the things where they were trying to decriminalize literally all drugs.
Okay, so what you just said was total fucking bullshit, okay? As somebody who's from the Midwest, the idea that all these Midwestern states are now pushing to decriminalize fucking meth or opiates? Okay, but this is where like the huge fucking opiate and fucking meth problem shit is like destroying like white families, I guess, or whatever, or white people, okay? Like most states right now that are pushing to decriminalize a drug are usually pushing for marijuana, okay? So just be careful.
And after they've gotten upset, they want to engage with him in a conversation. Once they try to engage with him in a conversation about what he said, he then gives like a very soft, more palatable version of what he said.
Okay, I feel like we got dragged in here partially because you guys were saying that the war on drugs was 100% about race, and I disagreed with that, and that's one of the reasons we're in here. But I'm glad we're here now. I don't know who moved where, but
he gives that take instead, and then as a result, then those people are like arguing with him about the original thing he said, even though he's now clarified what he said.
We all seem to be standing relatively close. We all did. I don't remember. I try to stay away from like the super. I try to stay away from the super bait talks.
And it's not at all as provocative, not at all as ridiculous. He's already gotten his content, and then at this point now he's just like.
Somebody else asked me a question about it, and that's why we're here. But I'm glad we're all standing together now. Okay. It feels like one of those we're one of the Jubilee videos, and we all moved to the same side. So good job, guys.
Yeah, like so. I don't even understand. We probably agree for the most part, or it's not as crazy. And now the person is like feeling angry and not understanding that, wait a minute, what we're debating now is not what you originally said. That's like the Destiny MO. And so you'll find it, for example, even recently in the Palestine-Israel situation where he'll say, I'm pro-genocide. And so then when people take that clip and point it out to him, instead of him engaging with, hey, I did say that and defended it, he'll say, well, if you want to just ask me my take, I'll tell you my take. It's like, I don't need to ask you your take. You already said what your take was. You said it in this thing when you said I'm pro-genocide. And he's like, no. Like, okay, so we're going to argue over something out of context. It's just a clip. And it's like, but you clarified and elucidated on this clip, and it was exactly what your point was. Or show me a part in this video where you said something different. You can change your stance, but you can't try to maintain that, no, you're just not understanding the context. When I know what you said, and you know what you said, and it's crystal clear, and this is the Destiny way. There had been several situations on panels and things like that where I was interacting with him, and I started learning all of his tools. So first off, he's going to straw man you every opportunity he gets.
Another.
How could you teach a little black girl what it is to be pulled over by the cops?
How could you teach a little black girl? Wait, hold on, shut the fuck up. How could you teach? No, hold on. How could you teach a little black girl anything when you're a man?
That in order to fight this, in order for me to be a difference, and for my progeny not to have this, then it's going to take a concerted effort, and that's part of what led me there.
Have you thought, how far away are you? Yeah, I understand. How far away from being like, maybe I just shouldn't have any white friends either?
Then anytime you're trying to make a serious point, he'll just start saying like, oh, it's memes or whatever, or he'll play his piano over you if you're like trying to make sure that your point is established, because you're not going to let him just walk all over you. Most of the time, the things that I'm talking about are things that literally have direct impacts on people living today, which is why I've always avoided slavery. Man, I should start playing the piano when you're talking, because I'm so much better at the piano than you, and you know it. But he'll do distorted listening the entire time, or he hit you with a bunch of gotcha questions because he's just used to doing that.
I understand that there are quotes within Nixon's administration, and there are a lot of Republican quotes where people are like, oh yeah, like we want to get black people, blah, blah, blah. Do you think that the majority of the people in the United States that support like anti-drug measures, especially past the 60s, because the war on drugs, I'm pretty sure was like started in the 70s is when it like picked up a ton, right? And then going into like the 80s and the 90s where we get our big fucking crime bill, right? And then past 2000s, do you think the majority of the people that are supporting these like anti-drug things, including black people, are just doing it because they're racist against black people?
Or he'll take everything to these most absurd hypotheticals.
So we keep bringing up this idea of like pharmacological similarity. So let's say that we were to invent a drug, and this is just the only thing my mind can think of right now, I'm sorry, okay? Let's say that we had things called like rectal alcohol bubbles or something.
And all of these things are his way of controlling the conversation by not actually engaging with it. After we've had so many interactions and things have been problematic, and I remember on one particular day, I went on Destiny's stream after we had been on a panel, and I talked to him as an individual, and I was explaining to him my position so that he didn't have the panel and the host and all these different excuses in order to justify himself, and then he called me racist.
Like this has been an ongoing conversation, but it's fine.
Stop being racist.
It had to do with, we were talking about the Cosby case and how I was saying, I point blank don't believe that there's any actual forensic evidence that says that Cosby is guilty. And OJ came up as well, which of course I was saying I don't think there's any actual forensic evidence that says OJ is guilty. And so then after that, then he asked me about Casey Anthony, I believe her name was, the one who murdered her baby. And he was like, do you think she's guilty? Because she was found innocent. And I said, yeah, I do. And then he was like, oh, so you're racist.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me from this conversation anything that is indicative of some sort of racism that would be motivating me to have the position I have on Cosby?
No, but I don't remember it had to do something with like, because it feels like you take a contrary position on all of the popular rulings. Because I think you also said OJ didn't do it either,
sure,
which is what you believe as well.
I did, but I think R. Kelly did it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah, I said it in that conversation too. This is new information.
Okay, I have to go back and remember. But this is also combined with the dating take too. And I was like, oh, I don't know.
So from that point on, everyone started calling me racist. And when I say everyone, it never went away. Because DGG tends to echo the things that Destiny says. So if Destiny says something, then DGG will harass that person with that thing forever, right? I have thick skin, so I can handle it. But that literally would follow every single video. I would do music content. There would be comments in there about that. I'd be doing streams about gaming. There would be comments on there about that. Anytime I came up in the Twitch sphere, there would be like on DGG, just people like saying Fanatiq is racist, Fanatiq is racist, Fanatiq is racist. And he called me racist a few times in our interactions. The reason why this is so important is because it became so bad and it was so ridiculous that eventually I called him out and asked him to come. I was doing the studio show and I asked him to come to the show. And I was like, okay, we're going to address every single one of these points individually. I brought all my talking points. I took down timestamps, everything, so on and so forth. And I brought him to the studio.
The other thing that you had called me racist for.
Uh-oh. There were multiple racist.
Yes, there was.
Okay.
The first time where you actually said you're racist was when you asked me, do I think that Casey Anthony was guilty? We were talking about Cosby and how the lack of forensic evidence in order to actually say that he's guilty. And I was saying that...
Which one? Is Casey Anthony the white woman that killed her kids?
Mm-hmm. Her kid, her one child.
In that conversation, you'll see me say multiple times, well, the first time you called me racist, yada, 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 yada. The second time you called me racist, and each time I make him walk back the racist claim as part of the argument that he was originally given. And so he's just like, okay, all right, yeah, you're right, sure, that's not racist, okay. And so after a while, he's walked back every single claim that he said that I was racist. Now that didn't stop DGG, but eventually we put out that content, or I put out most of the content, he put out all of it except for the Bill Cosby portion, where he also agreed with me.
And so I would ask the question, so I've answered your question, and now I'm going to ask you, do you think that the total absence of any forensic evidence is reasonable doubt?
I would probably agree with you, because I find it hard to believe that you could get past that reasonable doubt threshold without any direct or circumstantial evidence about what happened.
When you say...
But anyway, in those things, he walked back all of his racism claims.
I'll take my racism from like a 4 out of 10 for you to like a 2 out of 10. Okay,
all right, so
it's somewhat alleviated,
dissolved?
I'll say.
Huh?
Somewhat alleviated.
Okay.
You're down to a 1 out of 10 on the racist meter now.
Because they were obviously absurd. And so then I'm like, man, okay, he was being good faith here, and it felt like, okay, he's at least being decent, so I don't have to be so upset. Well, I guess things get kind of worse. Because at this point now, I've had the conversation with Lawrence Southern. I see him as somebody who's like protecting Lawrence Southern, and a lot of people saw that. So we had a panel, and in the panel we had been talking about interracial dating and things like that. And that was one of the reasons he had called me racist. Now, when I took him on the Fanatiq show, we had cleared that up and he was like, past it, okay. But people still say to this day, random people will still say, yeah, Fanatiq is anti-interracial marriage and things like that.
Somebody had mentioned, and I honestly don't remember who, but somebody had mentioned on the panel that you don't agree with race mixing.
Oh, that's crazy. No, I have no problem with race mixing. Yeah, just absolutely absurd, because I made it crystal clear. I compiled a bunch of those clips and you can see them every single time he would try to say,
I didn't know that in such a short time we would be, people on the left would be arguing against interracial dating. I don't know.
I don't know that. Number one, I'm not arguing against interracial dating, right? Like, you don't judge something based off of the action. You would judge it based off of the intention. And so I would say whoever I'm going to be whoever I'm going to have children with is going to be someone that I should probably think I want to be aligned on various characteristics in order to achieve what I want through my children thing. Because remember, a humongous part of my underlying reasoning was specifically fighting against some of the systemic oppression and some of the marginalization and the demonization of Black women. I don't know that. Number one, I'm not arguing against interracial dating, because again, you keep doing this mischaracterization thing. People that are racist. I'm not saying other Black people can't date people of the.
Well, you were making it sound like it would be misguided if white people. Hold on, you made it. You said.
But he didn't. It didn't matter on the panel. He just kept on maintaining it. So after he had done that one, where it was obvious that he was intentionally doing that, the conversation eventually morphed into systemic oppression and talking about the war on drugs. In it, he originally said, I don't think that the war on drugs is racist.
I don't think it was like intentionally, like the government was like, we're gonna attack the Black family by making the war on drugs. I think that it's a lot of other dumb shit. The whole point of systemically racist structures is that they persevere and exist independent of any racial actors. The whole point.
That's along my point.
What? Yes.
I'm telling you that this policy was racist, regardless of people not being racist. You're agreeing with me.
No, I do agree with that. But I don't like it when it's phrased as just saying it's just racism or white supremacy.
It was like, excuse me? But it's a panel, and I can't hammer him on that point by myself because everyone else wants to talk and so on and so forth. And then he changes the conversation to saying something like, you're saying that race was the only cause of the war on drugs.
So this is like an example of like, if we blame everything on race instead of taking a broader look at things, and then we implement policies that are along those lines, we end up, one, hurting the people that we need to fucking help, and then two, we don't have any fucking idea what we actually need to do in society to help anybody. And I think that you have to be really careful with how you discuss a lot of these things, because when you start veering off the lived reality and the knowledge that people have, like, well, hold on, wait, I know a lot of conservative people, they don't like fucking hate Black people. Or like, I have a lot of Black friends and they support shit like this, right? You lose everybody, and it's all fucked. So that's why I'm just.
But we aren't making those hyperbolic statements, Destin. We never say all conservatives are racist.
Now, there obviously is a racial component. There's a racial component to everything, especially when you look at the fact that this was a war on drug shit is in the fucking 70s, of course. I'm just saying that to boil it all down to just race, and then to sit here and come out, and because what happens is when you get so committed to these narratives, you end up unironically arguing on a podcast stupid fucking shit like crack and powder cocaine are the same fucking thing, when every fucking person in their life that has any interaction with drugs whatsoever would tell you that is obviously not true.
Nope, no one ever said that. Now, I must have said at least 10 times, as did another person who was on the panel, and we kept saying it over and over again. No, we're not saying it's the problem, we're saying A.
To just jump to race is certainly an element, but it's not the only element.
No, we're not saying it's the only problem, we're saying it's a large problem.
For one. Number two, I want to point out, like, and I get it, like, where you want to say that race isn't the whole story, and it never is the whole story, but it is a really large, probably predominantly compounding factor.
No, we're not saying, and he just, every time, yeah, but why do you keep saying it's the only problem?
I don't necessarily disagree with anything you've said. The only problem I have is that when you frame all of it and just say it's racism or racial biases, there's two huge problems happen. One is just descriptively, we're not accurately describing what's happening in reality. But two, the really big problem is we can never, ever, ever, ever fucking fix any fucking problem in this country when everybody is acting like the only reason why we have problems with race is because of racist people. It's like everybody fucking forgot what the fuck systemic racism actually meant. Like the whole point of systemically racist structures is that they persevere and exist independent of any racial actors. The whole point.
That's along my point.
What? Yes.
I'm telling you that this policy was racist, regardless of people not being racist. You're agreeing with me.
No,
We spent, and I'm not exaggerating, an hour and a half of just nonstop comments saying, well, if you're saying race isn't the only problem, if you're saying race is the only problem, and every time we say it's not the only problem, we're not saying that. No one said it. In fact, I have a bunch of those clips, and I want you to just listen to how many times they're saying race is the only problem and how many times we're saying we've never said that and we're not saying that now.
Point out really quickly, I was not making the statement that it was only race. That's the only factor that causes these things. I think all of us should be intelligent enough to recognize that there's going to be a lot of other factors. However, what I would say that one of the major factors that is changing these attitudes is race. And to me, it sounds like you want me to revisit, or you want me to ignore the history, ignore the facts and details, and try to force me to focus on to ignore the racial element when the racial element is literally the largest factor.
Race plays a significant role. It does not play the only role, and race integrates with other things. And that it's not to say that those things are more important, it's to say that those things have an interaction. And to minimize the understanding simply to race is to erase part of the story.
I totally agree with all that, but I again, it feels like this is a straw man. I don't remember any of us literally arguing that it was only race. Like, that's the problem. That's not our argument. And it feels so foreign to me when I feel like people keep wanting to inject this idea of, like, I want to make sure that you understand, race isn't the only factor. Like, I'm a pretty well-read guy on this topic. I obviously wouldn't be saying it's just race. So I don't know. It feels like when you go out, I feel like when you go out of your way to indicate that, it's almost as if you believe someone said that, when clearly at least I don't remember anyone making that statement.
Okay, I feel like we got dragged in here partially because you guys were saying that the war on drugs was 100% about race, and I disagreed with that, and that's one of the reasons we're in here. But I'm glad we're here now. I don't know who moved where, but we all seem to be standing relatively close.
Framing these conversations purely on the basis of race, like, is unhelpful when you're on a platform that's speaking to a whole load of people who are going to be like, well, I support this policy, but I'm not fucking racist. Like, they're going to disconnect and not want to listen to you.
I take the argument of solutions, and I don't think synthesizing something down to like a single point is actually helpful at all. It's very different to be black in LA than it is to be in Texas, than it is to be in Idaho. People in those areas have different experiences. So GSU Gambit, even when you say something like, do you think that race is the main factor? Well, it really depends. You're not being specific enough. And for me, when I'm looking at solutions, I'm aiming for as much specificity as possible.
Can you give me a context in which race is not the biggest factor when it comes to the war on drugs? What context?
I don't know. This isn't my area. But what I'm saying is it cannot be simplified down to just race because it is not helpful.
But okay, so I agree
as long as nobody makes the claim.
Right, number one, as long as Destiny's not making that claim, then we probably wouldn't be down this rabbit hole. Secondly,
and once again, saying that race is the key and only variable. That's what it, just as you're saying that, it sounds to me like I'm saying race doesn't matter. When you're speaking, it sounds like you're saying that no matter where you look, no matter what you test for, no matter what variables you change, race is always going to be the variable that matters. And that's just, it's not how studies work.
Not the.
Okay. Leave it alone. But you cut it, right?
You know where I'm gonna go. Don't bring up with airheads on Twitter and everything. Like, I want to have a conversation with you, amongst us. Nobody here is making those stupid claims.
And those timestamps go over an hour of just dealing with that, only for us to finally come to the same page, and then Destiny goes,
okay, I feel like we got dragged in here partially because you guys were saying that the war on drugs was 100% about race, and I disagreed with you.
Yeah, but Fanatiq said over and over again, and start laughing because he knows he's distorting what I said.
We are the people that understand that, so you don't have to make those claims with us. That's all I'm saying. I really don't like.
Okay, I appreciate that, but like Fanatiq over and over again, and I don't know where you stand on this.
He knows he's not realistically actually engaging, right? Eventually that conversation dies, and so I'm like, okay, Destiny is just a bad actor. I see it now. I'm starting to see him for who he actually is. I'd say the final straw, the final interaction that Destiny and I had, there was a white grievance panel. In the white grievances panel, I think it was hosted by Mr. Girl and Dick Masterson and a bunch of other people, and they had one pick-me dude who just wasn't argue against them strong enough so they had black representation. In that panel, they were saying all of this nonsense about reparations and
well, wait, hold on. Yeah. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that redlining, it might have been like an approved practice, but at the end of the day, it was private banks and stuff that were making the decisions on who not to loan money to, no?
I would say if you're just going to start paying reparations like just across the board to black people, I think that would probably be like ridiculous.
If you get reparations or whatever, it's not because you were a slave, and it's not because you had a bad history because of slavery. It's because the government made a deal with you and went back on it. They broke. But if you're like a poor dude that lives in like a meth fucked town, like a fucking trailer park, and you've got somebody talking that white privilege shit at you, you're gonna feel like, what the fuck are you talking about? Where the fuck is my privilege? I don't feel it, right?
Those people were given reparations due to what happened during the World War, right? Because they were wrong, like, criminally, but it wasn't like necessarily a financial transaction that was.
I think that was a little different though, because they were able to solve it like immediately. Like,
there can exist a white privilege on more of a statistical level, but a lot of the times that is misapplied to just an individual person. Like if you're working a 9 to 5 and you're barely getting by on minimum wage, and then some like a lefty comes up and tells you that you have white privilege, then odds are you're going to take extreme offense to that, because you're thinking, what the hell did I get that I haven't earned, right? And it just harms discourse. It really is kind of a useless term at this point.
After that panel, Hunter Avalon had made a bunch of points, and Destiny had made a bunch of points. I pulled Hunter Avalon to the side. Like, I ended up taking down notes of everything that he said, and I was like, hey, I want to address all those claims you were making. I'm going to address everything that you said. And he's like, okay. And I go through it.
If I said there is no intent, then yeah, that would have been incorrect. That would have been factually wrong. I think that what I meant to say, or what I definitely say now, is that it doesn't require intent. Again, I feel bad because I'm not trying to like walk back what I said on the panel, but I don't really remember, again, the context. Like, of course, there are going to be examples of individuals who are benefiting from white privilege.
So even though that person doesn't feel white privilege, would you say that they still have it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. White privilege is not determined by whether or not you feel like you have it.
You said this. There's no way that's right. He ends up walking it back. You said this. He walks that back. You said this. Well, I should clarify. Nope, that's not what you said. What you said was this. And by the time we're done, he walks back every single thing, every grievance that I had with. Destiny was also on that panel, and he had said a whole bunch of nonsense.
I think that would be a civil court matter, not like a policy of the U.S. government. Yeah, it's just when you start getting into like U.S. policies, I don't even know how you would even start to get into like who caused what wrong for what reason. It just seems like it would be so hard. Like the idea of just like black pride, when there is no shared black experience in the United States.
And so it was like, okay, no, we're gonna call you out on that too. Now, up to this point, I've seen Destiny engage with people where he feels like they weren't being honest, and he takes notes and goes back, hits them with everything, fixes everything up, and then he's just like, yeah, exactly. So I knew I was right. Now, I'm not going in the same energy, but I'm like, oh no, we're gonna deal with every single one of these things, because Destiny has a pretty large platform, and he's pushing off all of these terrible talking points towards his largely white audience. And I know that I'm more informed than him on almost everything, especially regarding black issues. And the reason why this is so important is because what I realized was that even when we would have debates, he would act as if he knew what he was talking about when he didn't.
Why it's so important. Wait, this is why you have to have my perspective. Any other perspective fails. Yeah. It has to be.
I don't have to have your perspective.
If you want to make the argument, it does.
So for example, at one point on our very first debate, he's saying, well, if you don't have camera evidence, then it didn't happen, or there's no proof, or so on and so forth, because I couldn't find the actual footage. And I explained to him, I was like, well, this is just as silly as when people said racial profiling wasn't happening before we had the receipts and proof of that. And he's like, well, we knew racial profiling was happening. I was like, yeah, but we didn't know it in the early 90s.
And I feel like this sounds eerily similar to when there were all of these complaints about police brutality before we started, or racial profiling before we started collecting the data, and it became undeniable because now we have a plurality of that data.
We didn't know. And he's like, yeah, we did. We knew it. And it was like, no, actually we didn't. And
only the data on racial profiling for decades, and we've known that it exists.
Sure.
If I were to ask
but it was constantly contested.
You wouldn't be telling me that it was on a Facebook post.
He just swore that he knew what he was talking about, and it's like, I know from my own personal experiences and from just my history with it and the data, there's just no possible way. So originally there were claims about like racial profiling, that police were just pulling black people over for no reason and so on and so forth. But at the time, we didn't have any data on that. The very first time we eventually came up with like the Traffic Act, whatever, which required police to keep data of every single time they pulled over a person. And then once they do that, then we're able to look at that data and say, see, so you guys are racial profiling.
Prior to to that before these laws were passed, when it was my parents and when it was my elder siblings, that's all we had was just word of mouth. They weren't keeping they weren't keeping these statistics back in 1989. That wasn't the thing there.
First of all, in 89 they weren't. So the argument that you're making right now,
because prior to that, it was just an idea in our head. It's similar to how like Rodney King was one of the first extremely visible versions of police brutality that like galvanized people into riots, protests, and all of those things. Prior to that, it wasn't that we didn't know that it was happening. We knew it was happening and we claimed it was happening, but there was always a denial. No, it's not happening. No, you guys are making it up, etc., etc., etc. The thing that made Rodney King's situation so very particular was because he ended up driving his car on that chase to a gas station where the gas station had surveillance footage. The surveillance footage is how we saw, oh, you guys did brutalize a lot of this man. Despite all the markings and things in his face, we saw the surveillance footage proved that they were absolutely ridiculous. And then once they did that, and they exonerated or acquitted all of those men, then it was like, wait, okay, so that's what created the riot. But we knew it was happening, but now we had evidence. We have cell phone footage to prove that it's happening so regularly. So when I made the statement, like in the same way that we didn't know about racial profiling, and he's like, yeah, we did. And I'm like, we didn't know about it in the early 90s. Yeah, we did. We knew way before that. He's just uninformed. So what we have is the Traffic Stop Statistics Act of 1997, which is HR 118. The whole purpose of that was to begin collecting data from traffic stops to determine what the cause of it was and what the outcome of it to determine if things were racially motivated. This was necessary for us to get the data where we can now learn about the veil of darkness, where once it starts getting towards evening, dusk, or places where you can't tell with a race of people, all of a sudden disparity in pullovers and traffic stops start disappearing. It was just kind of insane because, originally he was claiming that this is not it. And I knew, of course, that it wasn't. I just have lifetime incidents where I recognized that this was a thing for myself, because they would always put me in handcuffs in the back of their car whenever they would do it. Or I remember driving down the road and the cop pulled up behind us with my dad and his friend and a bunch of my siblings, and we're in the car. And I remember they mentioned the police officer, and I was sitting at the very front in the middle of the car, and I went to look back over my shoulder, and my dad like kind of elbowed me like, hey, look forward. If you look at them, then it's going to make them pull us over. I might have been 9 years old at the time, maybe. I would say I was 9 years old at the time. I knew that it existed. He didn't know that it existed. The problem is he always assumes that he knows, or he'll just straight out lie. So after all of those things and all the stuff that he stated on the White Grievance panel, I decided, okay, I'm finally going to have a conversation with Destiny. I was like, okay, I'm going to finally come at Destiny about all of this. I finally decided I was going to have a conversation, and from the very beginning, he was trying to be as dismissive as possible, but I had the receipts. You said this. So the first thing I wanted to talk to him was about the war on drugs, because on that previous panel, one, he completely misconstrued everything we said, and I realized, okay, I can't do it on a panel because Prime Kite is going to run cover for him.
So Destiny, you keep stretching the argument. What you're doing is
I'm not distracting. I'm responding. Stop stealing it. Oh, dude, Fanatiq is triggering the fuck out of me right now.
One at a time. Holy shit, show one at a time. All right, hold on. Steven, you can respond to what's been said.
I already responded to it. Yeah, I'm just saying, Fanatiq.
Okay,
one guy's saying having a public platform, being responsible with your messaging. Yeah, of course.
It's not irresponsible for me to share my art and my music.
If we were talking about,
I'm not saying other black people can't date people of the.
Well, you were making it sound like it would be misguided if white people. Hold on, you made it. You said.
Stop. I was Destiny. Destiny, and then Fanatiq, you're gonna get right back into it. Destiny, finish it what you're gonna say.
You said you.
Albeit maybe unintentionally, didn't matter. The fact was, every time he would let Destiny get the last word, let Destiny misconstrue it, and be like, no, okay, no one, someone else's turn, right?
Proportionate sentencing of African Americans as opposed from white people. These things do not disappear with class or county or region or anything else.
Okay, great. So hold on, we're gonna go to Carolina in a second.
It's not how studies work.
Leave it alone. Right, you cut it, right? And we'll go to Katarana. Katarana, remember when Joe said,
who the fuck you talking to, though? Have fun, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry. Hold on. Sorry. No. Well, Fanatiq, let Legendary speak for himself, right?
I'm speaking for myself too.
Okay,
You're not speaking for yourself. You're cutting in.
We got it. We got it. It's sorry. Look, you're gonna have to hold that. All right, then moving on.
Wait, but
and he kept doing those kinds of things. So I was like, oh no, we're not about to have that. So now I'm talking to you as an individual, and now I got the receipts, I got the direct quotes from the administration, I got all of this. So I'm like, nah, let's go at it. And he's just trying to dismiss from the very, very beginning.
Okay. So the war on drugs was started by Nixon, right? Nixon, like that's when it was like it launched.
Okay.
John Earl Rickman, who was like the head of that department, literally said, quote, "You want to know what the war on drugs was really about? The Nixon campaign in 1968."
Yeah, I don't care. I super don't care about any of this. I know that you can.
No, I got it. Okay, I got you. You don't care. Let me just go ahead and make sure we state this, so then you can just go ahead and be objectively
Let me
wrong.
Red Bull real quick. What you read the quote about how it's to punish the Negro or whatever the fuck. Hold on.
I'll just wait. Go ahead and get your Red Bull.
Well, I don't care. I don't care about what this person said. Then we start talking about redlining and why it actually impacted black people the way it did. And he's like, of course he knows about redlining, but doesn't understand the fundamentals of it, as was evidenced within that white grievance panel.
Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that redlining, it might have been like an approved practice, but at the end of the day,
because in the white grievance panel, he was saying really stupid things like, yeah, but redlining wasn't really caused by the government.
It was private banks and stuff that were making the decisions on who not to loan money to. No,
I've done a whole video on redlining, which will be in the comments. I've talked about that extensively. It was not the banks that were responsible for redlining, but the U.S. government. It really had to do with, and I'm not going to go through that whole thing, but you can watch the video and you can figure it out. So then, of course, in this situation, I needed to explain it to Destiny, right? Because at this point, if you're making the claim that, oh, reparations, or you should be able to just do a civil lawsuit for redlining against the banks that did this, and it's like, well, no, because the banks weren't the ones responsible for redlining. Well,
the government didn't directly loan the money. The government insured the loans that were directly loaned by the banks. The banks had decided to tighten up and weren't going to be loaning money to anybody. So the government got on board and said, hey, we'll insure your loans to make sure that you don't lose capital, but you can only loan to white people.
Now, some of you in the comments might be like, oh, Fanatiq doesn't know what he's talking about. Challenge me or watch my freaking video. It's very obvious that it wasn't the banks that was responsible, but our own U.S. government creating the red lines through the FHA system in which they were determining, hey, this is who we'll loan to, and these are the loans that we'll insure or not. At this point, I kind of break that down to him. He finally concedes that point, but he's like kind of doing it reductively.
Let me explain why. When you're talking about like freaking, what was it? Redlining, and you have no idea what the freak redlining is.
I didn't know everything about
No.
Okay, I guess, yeah, I just didn't know everything about redlining. It's like, you didn't understand the very fundamental parts. If you don't understand the source of redlining, if you don't understand who it was that created the policies that did the redlining, and you are genuinely ascribing it towards the banks, you genuinely don't understand what redlining was or how it impacted folks. He had a distorted explanation about white privilege.
The other thing that you said, poor white people don't feel their privilege, right? That's a pretty stupid take, right?
Yeah. No, I don't. I think that's true.
And it was like, no, we're not doing that either. So I clarified that one. Finally, I talked to him about one thing on that call that I felt like was pretty foul that he did. And he muted, and then he discussed it, and he said what he said. And I was like, okay, then I'll just go ahead and let that one go. But I had smoke for him on that one too. But by the time we were finished, it was like, okay, like he started doing his piano thing.
I specifically said it would impact if you would stop playing your freaking piano in order to be disrespectful, so you don't have to actually engage with the arguments that I'm giving you and trying to interrupt me every second. You would understand what I said was that if we were to get rid of the racism, it would absolutely dramatically impact the war on drugs, because there are racial implications of the war on drugs, specifically at overcharging black men for the exact same crime.
He was cutting me off. He was being as reductive as possible and just really not trying to engage because I had all the smoke for him.
I agree. Fanatiq, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? Yeah. I'm uncomfortable. When white people talk about racism, it's hard because it doesn't affect me, okay? And I don't truly see non-white people as human as I do. So it's hard for me to empathize. What am I supposed to say? If we got rid of all racist thought in the United States today, do you think we would immediately get rid of the war on drugs?
No, but I believe what we would do is
Exactly.
no. Okay, let me no. You're gonna let me answer your question. That was going to be the last time I interacted with Destiny. From that point on, because he had given me permission that I could join his stream at any time. He had given me like a special permission I could join his room if he was ever in it, and I could talk to him about anything. We could debate anything. And I probably took him up on that maybe 3 times over the course of about 3 years. And so after this, I'm just like, I don't want to interact with this dude anymore. He's a dishonest person. I had to smoke for him, and now I see if you actually come with facts and proof and evidence and all that stuff, he doesn't want to engage you because he wants to be the smartest person on Twitch. And so, okay, I let all of that go, and I said, okay, I'm not going to talk to him about it anymore. I'm over it. And I'm just like, yeah, he's done. But I'm still getting hit with the racism claims and things like that, even though he's walked it back. One day, I'm minding my own business. Someone comes to my stream and I'm about to end it, and they say, hey, Fanatiq, we really need you. You got to talk to this person. She's been going ham, and you got to talk to this person. Okay. Oh, what's it about? Check out Destiny's stream. You have to go. Like, I promise, we need you. And this isn't the first kind of time where those sort of situations happen. I remember there was a point in time with systemic oppression arguments, and that guy had been arguing on a panel for about an hour and a half with people, and they weren't able to make any headway.
Right. So what you basically said is, I tried to write down like a paraphrase. You said it's where society creates overt or covert systems that will disproportionately harm people of color. It sounds like a decent paraphrase. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
Prime messaged me. It was like, hey, Fanatiq, we really need you in this call because this guy is rough like that. So I was like, okay, I joined it. 14 minutes.
So since we did something so awful, we should probably help these people. So for whatever your wages were, or if you had a job at that point, or if you lost your home, we will fix that for you because we as a government did that. It's a simple rectification, right? So in the same sense, there should be something to offset the imbalances created by the systemic oppression that we are all aware existed and still somewhat exists to this day, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I love you, Brent. Look, I appreciate your willingness to admit that this thing is real. I'm like, it is incredibly healing. Now
he's like, all right, I concede. You're right. Systemic oppression is real, and I'm something to fix it, aka reparations. So at this point, I'm used to that kind of thing happening, and so once again, I'm like, okay, let me see what the freak is what's going on. He has on this person who is somewhat, almost feels like a Jesse Lee Peterson or something. You know, she's arguing she's very anti-black male and just kind of ridiculous with it. She's argued multiple people before me.
Black men are victims. Black men are fucking victims. They cannot not engage in criminality. They cannot be in the fucking home and raise their kids and marry their women to try to fucking avoid deprivation in the home and fucking poverty.
And so then I'm finally like, okay, I gotta get on here. I message that, like, all right, let me talk to this chick. And I get on there, destroy her. It was gross.
Stop.
She can't just keep repeating herself, bro. She's wasting time. Sure, I believe you believe that. So my point being, I'm gonna just talk, and the longer you talk, the longer I'm gonna talk, okay? I'm letting you know now, if you interrupt me, I'm gonna go longer. She's gonna interrupt anyway. So look, when you look at the sexual marketplace, okay, and you want to say that this is like directly tied to the divorce rate, like I think those are two completely different things. The sexual marketplace only gets you as far as like the initial engagement, the initial like whatever, the initial relationship. But that doesn't mean that it's gonna work for longevity. Everyone knows this with a brain that the leading cause of divorce is financial. Everyone knows this. But the whole time while I was like giving it to her, Destiny was kept saying things like, "Oh, I'm gonna throw a little hand grenade in there."
Can I just toss a little grenade and then you guys can talk around it? I'm so sorry. I'm curious.
And he keeps on arguing for this woman.
If black families were totally fucked and moms totally abandoned their children, you could use the argument, well, look at what happened to the fathers. They went to prison, they went to house. Of course black mothers were gonna abandon their children, but they didn't, right? Anna's argument is that like black mothers have had to consistently step up throughout the history of black people, while black fathers have used the excuse of like, well, society sucks, so I'm a criminal.
Arguments that he knows aren't valid, arguments that he knows aren't true, and he's just like basically steel-manning some of her arguments.
Yeah, we need to do better you guys in chat need to do way better at critically engaging with what people are saying. There's not very much that she said tonight that was incorrect. Her perspective is definitely a bit extreme to one side, I would say. But most of what she was saying was pretty true.
And she came on there and spewed some of the most disgusting vitriol about black men.
You might not like my verbiage. You might not like the tone with which I speak in. That's cool. But what I'm saying, is it right? Focus on the talking points. Is it incorrect or is it correct? That's what you need to focus on, okay?
Yeah, I agree.
But because they can't, and they can't because they don't have the information. They don't have the information because they don't have the bandwidth. This is what they do. So no, he is a representative of Black men collectively. I agree. I didn't say all Black men. It would be dangerous for me to say all.
But you never said some either. So that was dangerous as well. That was dangerous as well, right? You didn't never said some.
Just awful. And Destiny said, oh, I can't really push back against her because, that's not my struggle. So I don't know if this is actually valid. I can't argue. And so he basically made the excuse that he couldn't argue against it because it's not his lived experience, and she's arguing about his lived experience.
When you look at the plight or the state of the Black community, there have been persistent problems that have plagued the Black community for a long time. And the idea that we can just say, or when I shouldn't say we, I'm sorry. The idea that Black people can say, we need white people to fix this, we need white people to fix this, we need white people to fix this, when historically, if you already think that white people are an oppressive group, they're not going to help you. And two, white people didn't necessarily help the other groups that came.
Now this goes directly in the face of all the times when Destiny would say things like,
but I mean, like, it depends on it depends on what you mean by unique. If you're saying so unique that literally no other person can understand or relate to any part of what you did, it depends on how unique you mean.
No. The idea that someone has to be from a specific protected class to argue in defense of that protected class is whatever. But here in this situation, he's just letting her spew nonsense. And while she's debating me, she won't give me any of the studies or claims that she's making. She's giving them directly to Destiny. She won't let me read them.
Steven, if I send it to you, can you white explain it to him?
And she's arguing in bad faith. Destiny reads one of them, and I remember there's a point where someone in his audience says, hey, so what was it? Is that study real? And he's like, nah, it's nonsense, right? So I know he knows that she's not arguing in good faith. When we leave that discussion, he goes and says to her multiple times, Fanatiq was really coping. His arguments weren't really that. He wasn't really addressing what you said. He was even validating her claims, her racist and anti-Black claims, saying things like,
it seems like Black culture gets a special pass sometimes for being self-destructive. That if there were a whole bunch of fucked white people in the United States making songs about meth labs and shit, everybody would probably look at them and be like, bro, why are you rapping about meth labs when you guys are destroying your communities with meth? But for Black people, when they rap about gang violence and all of this shit, everybody's like, that's cool, it's Black culture, you have to respect that.
Well, I mean, hey, look, you're right. You said that people wouldn't be able to continue with their arguments and stuff. And yeah, you've been right. Even though she was the most bad faith, belligerent person ever, he was still justifying all of her bad behavior and pretending as if she actually was winning the argument and undermining all of the pushback that I gave to her in that argument.
You said they would say some things, and they did, so you were right.
During this time, I had messaged Destiny and I'd said something about something to the effect of, there's been times where I've respected you and things like that, and I've lost a lot of respect for you at other times, and I've always been really conflicted, because when Destiny and I would have a particularly bad argument or something really, really gross, Destiny would randomly, this is back when he was on Twitch, he would randomly host my stream, right? And he has obviously a lot of viewers, and so it's dang, that's pretty cool of him to do. And so it's okay, I guess that's a sign of peace or something, right? But ultimately, I started realizing, bro, I don't care about you hosting me if you're literally spewing nonsense that's going to lead towards more Black harm.
Okay, yes. I'm going to try to summarize her points, okay? Because I actually think there's a decent amount of merit here, okay? A lot of people in chat are mad, but I think she's arguing pretty well. Actually, better than almost anybody I've seen here, okay? So it's funny, okay? I'm trying my best over here, okay? She makes a lot of compelling arguments, okay? Maybe Black men are
agree.
And
I think what I finally came to the realization was, after he did all that, I said, hey, I had already started working on a hit piece. I'm hours in. I'm I would rather have a conversation. But then I started seeing how much he was trolling, and then people started sending me all of the information of hey, he's actually justifying what she said. Hey, here's where he says that,
I think that the inability to criticize Black culture is pretty toxic and pretty pervasive in the United States. I agree that is a problem, okay? But one thing that I will posit is that,
Wait, you just said it's inability to, why do you say we're unable to criticize Black?
Because that's generally exclusively a conservative talking point, and it's almost always seen as racist. It sounds like you have an awesome educational background and you have the ability to be conscious of a lot of the things and issues affecting the Black community in in a cognitive and an intellectual way that a lot of white people, everybody wouldn't be able to engage with. Because it sounds like you've done a lot of reading, you've done a lot of research. You've done more research than probably 95% of all populations, Chinese, white, whatever, in terms of issues affecting the Black community.
He's saying that you were wrong and that she was right and all that stuff. And I realized, okay, so this dude is just going to keep going down this train intentionally because, of course, it's inflammatory. He has a very largely white audience, and they're probably going to lap up a lot of this stuff. And he doesn't mind. It doesn't negatively impact him. In fact, it was like, it's always going to yield towards his growth. And he was having particularly big streams at the time. Gideon was on there. Low Tier God was on there. Abba from Abba and Preach was on there. And it was just all sorts of people were joining. And it was like, obviously, like it was like a big explosion. Satan the Sinner ended up debating him about some things. So for me, it was like, yeah, this feels like you're intentionally exploiting black folks in order to make this content, knowing that what she's saying is dishonest. And for me, that was like a deal breaker for me. Originally, I felt like so powerful about having completely dismantled all this woman's argument. And I got a lot of messages about that. But then I got a lot of messages from people who were upset when they were saying things like, yo, this is just black exploitation.
They are disgusted by single motherhood, despite the fact that they themselves probably came from a single mom. Does anybody know?
Is it the black community?
Okay,
I'm here for your rhetoric. Yeah, don't worry.
So we have a group of men who already think that single mothers are fucking the scum of the earth, including their own fucking mothers, because their mother was fucking a single mother. What's lacking in the black community is black men mentoring young black boys. How the fuck are you going to say that there are plenty when every single piece of statistical data literally proves that black men have no interest collectively?
Provide that data.
So what percentage of men are falling victim to the criminal justice system?
He's intentionally platforming this woman with all of these evil arguments that are very anti-black. He's not pushing back.
Hold on. I'm threading the needle hardcore. I'm threading the needle so tightly right here. She didn't come at you disrespectfully. She just came at you with a lot of energy. The way that was done historically in the US is unique compared to every other group. Nobody has the same experience that black people have. We have to create a literal class called African American because a lot of them don't even know where they came from. It feels weird giving these criticisms because I'm a white person. I'm very much on the outside.
There used to be conversations about what is responsible platform.
Don't worry about platforming fascists. Worry about platforming them irresponsibly. If you're going to bring them on, make sure you've got a good argument, If you can't debate too well, maybe don't have them on. Because, that's what you're there to be doing. Just make sure you're handling the process well. The problem with people like Joe Rogan isn't that they bring these far-right types on. It's that they bring them on unchallenged. But if you challenge them in the right venue, you can make these people look ridiculous with very, very little effort.
And this is why I've it's one of the few issues that I have, I guess, quote unquote, deplatformed on CC because of how much I just don't trust the average person. No fault to them. I just don't trust the average person to be able to engage with it.
You're pushing back against their argument is totally fine. But if you're not pushing back against their argument, steelmanning their argument, then you're part of the problem. You're actually just platforming this person and increasing their toxicity and increasing spreading of that misinformation.
It's really, really hard, especially with complex issues like Holocaust denial. It's one of the reasons why I don't always allow Holocaust denial. I don't allow things like race realism because to battle those things, you actually often really need to be very educated on those issues. And it's just, I don't want to just leave that up to the mob or just me on a random day.
So here he was saying he couldn't argue about it. After all that, I saw that he had renamed his stream to Destiny something for Jobs and Freedom, which is, of course, I had been talking about. That was, the purpose of the Black Million Man March and the March on Washington. It's a March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. And when I made that point, that he put on, they made a avatar of him with the kufi hat, and then he named his stream Destiny Stream for Jobs and Freedom and stuff. So he was just kind of mocking both myself and my arguments and all of those things while platforming an actual racist. It was just absurd. I finally said to him, forget it. I still have the DMs where I basically told him yo, I don't want to argue. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Afterwards, he then starts saying, I don't think I want to platform Fanatiq anymore.
I'm kind of half debating just banning Fanatiq from stream. It's pretty irritating. I don't mind disagreeing with him, but he really is the worst type of black person. Do you understand that?
A bunch of black people finally messaged me and were saying, hey, this is really gross. So then we had a panel, and in which case we're discussing what Destiny is doing and is it harmful? Is it something that we should be tolerating, et cetera, et cetera. If you bring a person on and you are adequately equipped to dismantle the arguments that they're giving, you actually do harm to their intentions and you help dissuade some of their audience. But that's only if there's responsible pushback. Otherwise, you are just amplifying the voice of someone who is harmful. That was the takeaway that it felt like we all had agreed on that from that platform. So when Destiny brings this person onto his platform, I feel like he's not following the proper protocols for platforming because he specifically said multiple times,
he didn't feel comfortable pushing back from her. One, because sometimes he said he didn't know enough, or two, he felt like because she's talking about her in group, because he's not a black person, then it doesn't feel right for him to really push back on it. So then that means that he's not personally equipped when he should be personally responsible for the direction that those things go.
Destiny got really upset at that panel.
Anytime there's a discussion on racial issues that goes the way that he doesn't want it to, he runs off to another stream and he starts calling everybody racist.
I don't want a platform. You got to be the biggest hypocrite of all time. The reason why it's so ironic that that would be his reasoning was because, Destiny had called me racist forever. Every time he would have an argument, he would make the claim that I was racist. In fact, when I brought him on the Fanatiq show, most of it was the first time you called me racist.
Okay.
The first time where you actually said you're racist was when you asked me, do I think that Casey Anthony was guilty?
And then I would explain. The next time you called me racist,
we've had various conversations about like black issues and things like that. And I think on some of them, you eventually kind of labeled me as racist.
Yeah.
It happened. So we got to kind of walk through that.
The final time you called me racist,
well, it sounded like what you said basically was that you wanted to be able to educate your child about things related to the black experience in the United States, and if you were dating somebody that wasn't black, then that parent wouldn't be able to connect with the child.
No.
Okay.
Because it's not about just being able to educate people about the black experience. Anyone can learn about the black experience. But specifically, my whole point the entire time was identifying self-hatred.
So I was making him walk that back.
That's ridiculous, right? Like, there's no way I'm going to sit here and just say every black woman is a candidate. I'm 37 years old. I'm not married now.
I'll take my racism from like a 4 out of 10 for you to like a 2 out of 10. Okay.
All right. So from that specific,
do you think that ended the harassment? Look at all of the harassment of all of the people calling me racist on DGG, still to this day. So it's hypocritical for you to go and say, oh, I don't want to talk to this guy because he called me racist, when you're going to be bad faith as freak. And I know you've been calling me racist and I've been getting harassed. My community doesn't go out of their way to harass Destiny. No one's talking to that nigga from my community. I had already pretty much deaded him after the final conversation in which he was being as bad faith as possible. For him to then do that, it was like, okay. And now the harassment, it just kept going. What I did was I took a collection of all of the various things that Destiny does. And if you need me to expound on any of those, we can look at any of his debates with Vosh, who was constantly destroying him in debates, and you'll see he does it all the time.
Okay, implementation of a business only adds utility, it doesn't derive it, whether or not you're a lefty.
The problem is you committing the action that you deem immoral. You can't use the system.
I don't think that's immoral.
Okay, fine. So here's a question. You enter a shady business, okay? Let's say that there is a woman, she's locked in a fucking cage, and it says not going to be freed until she's raped. You know that no matter what happens, somebody has to rape that woman in order for her to get freed. It doesn't matter if you do it or someone else does it.
I'm not going to dignify these hypotheticals.
You look at those videos, you look at this combination, and you tell me if this isn't exactly what I'm talking about. It's first, I'm going to either distort what you're saying, so that way I don't have to actually engage directly with you.
I'm saying, you're saying, of the black women that do vote, 95% of them vote for the Democrats.
90.
I'm telling you, the voter rate for black women, though, was not 95%.
I'm not saying that. That's not what I said.
I thought when people walked in the bank, there were guys that had giant fucking markers. When they saw black people, they drew a red line across their forehead and it meant, don't loan money to this guy. That's what I thought it was.
I'm going to completely straw man you.
This take is literally responsible, like, black people have to use it. It's part of their vocabulary. They have to use it.
No one said that. The first thing you asked me is, so you're saying that if they had a loss prevention or if they had a relationship with the cops that they could do it? No, that's not it. That's not an open-ended question. So you're saying that if they refuse you service, you can do it? No, that's not it. That's not an open-ended question. You never asked me just the open-ended question, what are the principles? I can answer that question. That's not what you asked us for. But we can move the conversation forward amicably, and you can ask me that specifically now, and I'm glad to answer that.
You're trying to build an argument right now where you can provide a justification for some group of people to feel like if they don't get the desired outcome at the ballot box, they can feel oppressed by a government. Like, black artists actually have zero fucking social responsibility whatsoever because the N-word is just part of their culture. So they have to have it in all of their rap songs and in all of their lyrics. Like, they just have to. It's just part of their culture.
Or I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to interrupt you nonstop.
Do that. If you ask me specifically, give me the principle required, then I would answer that question. You have not. What you've done is repeatedly, Destiny, what you've done repeatedly is ask me specific examples, and each time it has been something wrong. If you would have asked me, Destiny, do you sensitive and it's personal and you have an argument and all of those things, right? And I get it, we get emotional. Wait, but I'm not
being emotional. I'm giving you.
I got you, but no.
This is literally, I've given you
a single social media outlet. No, this was something that was. This was a pervasive belief, bro.
So your argument is that
I'm going to be incredibly reductive with what you're saying, with the point that you're making.
I didn't know everything about
No. It's not that you didn't know everything.
For
Can you
people,
just link me your GoFundMe? Okay, I'm ready to contribute. I'm sorry.
and I think if you're rhetorically efficient enough, you can prevent him from doing the vast majority of it. Nope, this is what I said. You can't do it on a panel because everyone's going to run cover for Destiny. An individual conversation, of course you can. That's why I was consistently able to get him to walk back the claims that he was making. So my main thing is I'm still working on a manifesto for myself, but I think at one point people were like, hey, make a Destiny manifesto. It's like, I can't make a Destiny manifesto. I can't. Here's my formal declaration on Destiny. But what I can do is I can just go ahead and explain how I feel about him, why I feel that way I do about him, provide some evidence of why I feel the way I do about him. You can see it for yourself. He's not an honest person. And you can even see in his recent debate with Ben Shapiro, where Ben Shapiro just walks all over him, all over that debate. Like, for instance, Destiny first asked,
are usually brought up in research is one is air conditioning, that children in hotter environments just don't learn as well. And then the second one is access to food. So like kids that are given like a breakfast or a lunch that's provided at school, like increases educational outcomes. Do you think there should be like some minimum threshold or minimum baseline?
Ben Shapiro just does the same thing that he always does, talking points, right? And he's just like...
Right, so the delta is what I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that you're starting at a second order question, which is, what if we ignore what I would think are the big primary questions of education, namely family structure, value of education at home, how much you have parents who are capable or willing to help with homework? What are the incentive structures we can set up for a society that actually facilitate that?
We're talking about, something else and and then Ben Shapiro just keeps going down there.
But it seems to me that one of the big flaws in the way that many people of the left approach government is, what if we hit every gnat with a hammer?
Destiny never once decides, okay, well, let's just make sure that we're clear. He lets Ben Shapiro digress on a regular basis so that he never actually has to hold him to account for anything. Because Destiny's goal when he's in these kind of spheres, when he's talking to those kind of people, can't make an enemy out of this guy. I gotta be passive. By being passive, then I have to like getting him back and having more conversations with him. It's at the very beginning, you can just see it time and time again. And we all know Destiny can debate if he wants to. Originally, I remember thinking at one point that Destiny was intentionally choosing really dumb people to debate to make himself look smarter. And I started realizing that eventually the smart people are a lot more cautious with being willing to talk. And so then as a result of that, the vast majority of people who are willing to talk, it's not exactly his fault. But I realized without his absurd hypotheticals and his distorted listening and his straw man interruptions and his playing the piano over you and all those things, if you're a smart enough person, you can embarrass him. And I think that's what made him actually cut me off, which was fine because I had already DM'd him and told him, hey, nah, that's it. You're trash. It ain't worth our time. People kept saying, oh yeah, you never know. He cut you off first. Here's the DM where I directly told him, never mind, you're trash. I don't want to talk. He didn't cut me off first. You deal with the amount of harassment I got from Destiny's community and you tell me it's worth it. You guys disagree with me on this? I'm always willing to talk to anybody. One more thing. I did hit him up when City Bike Karen incident was going, and I joined because I realized all of the disgustingness he had talked about regarding that Central Park Karen. He was just completely fabricating information and being as dishonest as possible.
Because the video for the white woman looks insane. She's just like screaming and trying to call the cops, and everybody's like, oh, white woman trying to call the cops on a black dude. But the guy posted this on his Facebook before he posted the video, but none of this ever got reported on. None of this got reported on. It was insane.
I joined his Discord there to talk to him about that incident. That was probably over a year after we had I cut communication with, and he just instantly blocked me. It was like,
what are you doing in here?
I wanted to talk to you about some of the things that you were just saying recently in one of your videos. Someone linked it to me.
Shit. You know what? You should buy a rope. Bye.
Boom, ban. Get the fuck out of my Discord, you fucking loser.
I was like, okay, all right, ain't tripping. That was the final interaction that I had. I don't mind. He's not the person I thought he was. They say never meet your heroes. I think that holds true for Destiny. I mean, you can go back and watch those clips, or if you want to find any timestamps, the contrary, please show it to me. But I'm saying with concrete evidence, Destiny was intentionally distorting everything I said. I'm against interracial marriage. I never said anything remotely close to the idea.
I understand what you're saying. When you back off the absolute part of that, I am much more likely to agree. I think it's totally possible for somebody to be like, I think I want to date somebody that is like me in this way. So I'm kind of looking for that. But I think that statement is way different than I would only date somebody of this skin color.
I haven't said anything racist.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me from this conversation anything that is indicative of some sort of racism that would be motivating me to have the position I have on Cosby?
No, but I don't remember it had to do something with because it feels like you take a contrary position on all of the popular rulings, because I think you also said OJ didn't do it either, which is what you believe as well.
I did, but I think R. Kelly did it.
Oh, okay, well that's good.
All of that comes from Destiny's distorted listening. And the same things he was accusing Vosh of doing, of, oh, he would misrepresent what Destiny said, but then never actually include clips of what Destiny said. Destiny would do that kind of nonsense, where he would claim, oh, Fanatiq said this and so on and so forth, distort whatever I'm saying. Audience would then parrot all of that distortion. You can't find a single instance of me ever saying I'm against interracial marriage. Never. It's just a Destiny lie. And that kind of harassment has existed this space since he's done it. It doesn't go away. I'm strong enough to handle it because I know that these people don't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. If I had less backbone, it would probably eat at me, and we've seen it. We saw what happened to Professor Flowers and just different people who have encountered that kind of behavior. You encounter DGG, then it gets really gross. And then at that point, I remember doing a video about Destiny, and my channel got flagged until I eventually got a strike on my channel. And Destiny will say, oh yeah, I've never advocated for people to do that, and I've never encouraged people to do that, but I don't have any other enemies in the space. The only person I had any kind of issues with at the time was DGG. Lo and behold, now my channel is getting strikes and stuff. I realize now Destiny is a grifter. He's just one of those people that he's making arguments in order to like captivate his audience, but he doesn't genuinely care about any of the topics that he talks about. That's why you should never meet your heroes. If any piece of this video needs to be expounded further, let me know in the comments and I'll go ahead and do so. Peace. I decided not to drop the entire video at once, so I released it in segments originally, but I did actually intend to just release one big portion of the video. Just after I released the first portion, people were really hammering for part 2, so I went ahead and did that. But my real intention was to release a long form video. I'm really glad that I did it the way that I did, because as I did so, I was getting feedback about even just some people's take about the video and just how it was impacting certain people. Some of the conversations I had from that were encouraging, enlightening, and one in particular really moved me, and I wanted to share that with you. YouTube is not normally a place where you go for good comments. I do read the comments on my YouTube, but most of the time they're not people who are genuinely trying to engage with you if it's like a particularly divisive video. This comment floored me. I feel like it really fully captured exactly what I wanted to say, exactly how I felt, and things that I'd communicated in just much better words. I'm gonna read this to you. This is from Correct Defense SC. I've been watching your content off and on for a while now. As I dip in and out of observing this online politics space, I kind of knew about you before you started discussing politics because of you being a legend in the fighting game community. I remember seeing you in a video of his debating him on one of those panels shortly after I discovered his channel as well, and being like, wait a minute, isn't that guy? I only played Soul Calibur when I did the tournament thing and didn't know much about the wider FGC, so I only vaguely recognized your face and didn't know the details until you covered them here on your channel recently, which was really entertaining, by the way. Over the years, some of your content, Destiny's content, and other leftist creators' content shows up in my recommended section every few months. I generally don't watch streams and only catch some VODs, but I've seen quite a bit over the years. Here are some opinions I have on this space regarding Black issues that this recent series touches on a bit, but doesn't seem to lay it out as a central focus, at least as of yet. But some of these opinions come from situations where it happened to you and in conversations you were in. So I bet there's a good chance you're going to talk about. Any current issue involving African Americans that's origins come from circumstances forced upon people we are descended from specifically because of their skin color are treated like an afterthought that is only spoken about begrudgingly when something tragic happens. It's a behavior that permeates the general attitude of the community and is disseminated from the largest creators in this space. Because the consequences of these issues aren't front and center in their lives, none of them care about the issues enough to the point that after years of making content, they still haven't attempted to grow their understandings of these issues beyond a very surface level that leads them to removing the issues from the context of which they originated and are never able to come to solutions because of it. These issues are too complicated to confidently assert the arguments they make as holistic and authoritative without taking the time to go through the entire history of the mistreatment of Black people in our country. For example, they learn just enough to beat the low-hanging fruit race realism arguments like 1350 by learning about socioeconomic conditions that lead the statistics so they can get easy optic wins in arguments, but retain the worldview that the statistic is emblematic of the broader culture of Black people and talk about us as if this is the case. They don't realize that while this is a problem that affects our communities disproportionately, they are talking about a single-digit percentage of Black people that perpetrate these crimes. Because of this laziness, the issue gets minimized to a point where the nation-long history of deliberate and concerted efforts by the US government and its majority population to commit atrocity after atrocity for generations gets hand-waved as something that wasn't as widespread and long-standing as it actually was. When you bring up the idea of reparations, which I am personally undecided on, the first thing they go back to is slavery, as if the atrocities and mistreatment abruptly stopped there. They don't do this because they've taken the time to learn about how horrific it was, but because they think they can make the idea sound ridiculous if they push back the atrocities to such a long time ago. This way they can assert that it's so long ago that no Black person of today is actually connected in a meaningful way to these atrocities. Why do I make this claim so confidently? Because anyone who has taken the time to learn about what was done to Black America during slavery and the century that followed would know that the atrocities continued largely unabated for many decades following. They don't know about the breeding farms, the experimentation on pregnant women who were denied sedatives, the propensity of rapes of men, women, and children by both men and women and slave owners, the torture, and the belief that Black people have a higher pain tolerance, that the children of slave masters were forced to indoctrinate them, the deliberate effort to distort science to justify slavery, white supremacy, and the long-standing belief from the distortion that remained in science and medical literature as a consensus for over a century, the whitewashing of slavery in the South by the United Daughters of the Confederacy. They don't know that there was a Civil Rights Act of 1866, or that there was a further Enforcement Act, and then more Civil Rights Act that followed all the way up until the latest Civil Rights Act, because de jure civil rights for all citizens, no matter their color, was put into law in 1866, but it wasn't de facto enforced until 98 years later. They don't know that local and state governments around the nation deliberately, and documented how deliberate it was, disenfranchised Black people by creating laws designed to target Black people without it saying so on paper. They don't know about white supremacists taking over local governments, rioting, burning down buildings, and then murdering every Black person they saw. For those interested, look into Wilmington, North Carolina in 1898 for just one example of many, and then look into the propaganda of the day they tried to hide it. They don't know about the widespread massacres and race riots. They don't know about forced sharecropping. They don't know that Black people and women could be legally discriminated against when trying to open a bank account until 1974. That's right, 10 years after the last big Civil Rights Act, which has had many amendments after. That was just a very small part of the history of this in the US, I have to reiterate, very small. You can see the origins of issues within the Black community today laid out clearly if you take time to genuinely look into the history and learn that this hatred and mistreatment was long-standing and widespread among the population. It is uncomfortable to think about for some, and for many, a knee-jerk reaction may be to not engage with this information because it paints people you are descended from and think highly of in a bad light. Or maybe you think I'm assigning blame or guilt to you. I'm not doing those things. People in history are so much more complicated than that, and that's why this issue is so frustrating. The hand-waving attitude that these large creators on this online left, especially Destiny, spread down to their very impressionable audiences. They refuse to learn these things because either they are lazy or they don't like the idea of a problem being more complicated and intrinsically linked to the past, which doesn't fit with whatever they already believe. This leads them to minimizing these issues. Minimizing them will keep their audiences from caring enough to attempt to learn any of this beyond its surface level, which will make it that much harder for the problems to be properly understood. If they aren't properly understood, solving them is nearly impossible. We are a minority for a reason. We can't advocate or vote for change and get results by ourselves, which is why it's important for Americans to understand these problems. This is an American problem that needs to be solved by America and its citizens, not just Black Americans. But the most frustrating part about this space is these creators don't talk about us like we're Americans. They otherize us constantly, and the biggest disseminator of this attitude is Destiny. So many times you'll say something like, Black people think X, and make a sweeping generalization of 13% of the population, speaking as if he is an authority on the matter. We're not a monolith. Just like how there is a spectrum of personalities, beliefs, socioeconomic conditions, and so on in every other race on this planet, it's the exact same for Black people. Some Black people are generous, some are greedy. Some are cruel, some are the kindest people you'll ever meet. Some are rich, some are poor, some are conservative, some are leftist. Some are the most vile racist people on the planet. Some are the most compassionate activists on the planet. Some are among the smartest people on the planet. Some are as dumb as rocks and everything in between. We exist on a spectrum just like everyone else on this planet. And when you talk about us like we're a monolith and talk about the thoughts and opinions of Black people in generalities, you're ignoring generations of a spectrum of thought and ideas and contributions of people who have affected your lives and the origins of political ideas that have informed your own beliefs in profound ways that you don't even know. And there's nothing we can do about it on our own because we are a minority in this space as well. That's why it's a real shame the way Destiny treated Fanatiq. He hand-waved, minimized, and continuously disrespected one of the few articulate, intelligent, and well-informed Black voices in this space. Not because they disagree broadly on most things, because they don't. And not because he actually thinks Fanatiq is racist, he doesn't. But he did so because Fanatiq wasn't an easy optical win when they had disagreements. He didn't start playing the piano because Fanatiq had long answers. He played the piano because Fanatiq didn't let him put his ideas into a box so that he can distort them into easily dunkable ideas. And because of this pettiness, what could have been an opportunity for Destiny to elevate a much-needed voice in the online left space was wasted in favor of optical wins to satisfy an ego. And that's such a waste of Destiny's intellect because he's a very intelligent person. He could be so much more positively impactful in the world if he let go of that ego. That was from Correct Defense SC. And I felt like it was important to share that because as I was releasing this and getting some of the feedback from people were doing review content and things, and I was starting to understand how other people were perceiving it. It helped me to modify it in a positive way so that when you guys got the final result, it would be more impactful in my opinion and it would answer more questions. That comment sums up almost everything that I felt needed to be said. And I just wanted to thank you and show you how much I appreciate it by including it in the video. I appreciate you, fam. Thank you.